Okay, let's call this to order. We can let all the people in the overflow room come in.
Oh, boy.
Okay, as February the 5th, 6 o'clock, we are convening the meeting of the Delray Beach Historical Preservation Board. And I would like the secretary to call the roll.
Carol Perez.
Here.
John Miller. Absent Peter Dwyer.
Here.
Chris Carpezes.
Here.
Vlad Dumitrescu.
Here.
Ezra Krieg.
Here.
Jim Chard.
Here. I think you've all seen the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda from the board? Any changes from staff?
No, sir.
All right. So,
Motion?
Peter, can you make a motion to approve?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
Can we all just say aye rather than call the names?
Don't we have to do a roll?
I think for these, you could go ahead and do all in favor. If it's easier for you, Diane, that they call it, but the commission does now do all in favor, so I think you guys could too if you'd like to.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
You're okay. All right. Minutes. We have no minutes to approve. So we'll skip over that. And now if we could swear in the public.
Please raise your right hand by the authority vested in me, the notary of the state of Florida. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So, any comments from the public? Now is the time to speak. Obviously, you can speak on the items on the agenda, but if there's anything other than the agenda that someone in the public wants to speak about, I welcome them to come up.
I'd like to enter some paperwork or some pictures here.
Can you state your name
Sure.
and address for the record?
Sure. My name is Charlie Simmons, and my address is 1616 North Swinton Avenue.
Then you could go ahead with your comment.
And I'd like to enter into the record just some pictures here that I wanted to have you see or distribute if that was possible.
This is on non-agenda items, right?
Right. I
Okay.
have just a few minutes. I just want to present a situation that's going on.
Okay, thanks.
Sets do you have?
There's 7 there, I believe, 7 or 8.
Okay.
So if there's one left, give it
Okay.
to me.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So I'm grateful for this opportunity to present tonight. My wife, Kim, and I moved to Delray Beach 4 years ago from Fairfield, Connecticut, which, like Delray Beach, is known for its historic charm. And we chose our home at 1616 North Swinton Avenue because of its history and its character, values that are very important to us. In Fairfield, we live also in a historic home, an 1880 home that we spent 30 years restoring to its original charm. I also served 9 consecutive 2-year terms on the facilities board at our church in Fairfield Center, which has a sanctuary that was built in the 1880s also. And over those years, I did many projects with improvements and restoration of the buildings on the campus there. So I have a deep appreciation for historic architecture, including the buildings here in Delray Beach. In fact, the building, one of our original meeting houses at the church in Fairfield, Connecticut, was burned by the British in 1779 when they invaded in July 1779. 1979. So we were told that the house that we bought here at 1616 North Swinton Avenue was designed by the renowned local architect Samuel Ogren. It features 4 original pillars that are made of concrete and stucco, which match the style and the materials of the house, and they create a very distinctive look from the street that you might see on those photos there. Unfortunately, phase 2 of the North Swinton Avenue roadway underground improvement, utility and underground improvement project, it initially called for the removal of those pillars, as well as a large mature fig tree in front of our house to make way for a new sidewalk that was planned. We strongly objected to this plan, and after our appeal, we were informed by the city that they've decided against removing both the tree and the pillars. Instead, the sidewalk is going to be redesigned to accommodate both. So now here's the key. While we haven't yet seen that redesign, we hope the sidewalk path will be offset slightly to preserve the pillars and minimize the risk to the health of the tree. This adjustment would allow for pedestrian and bicycle traffic while maintaining the historic character of the property and the streetscape. Preserving these pillars and the fig tree would also help maintain a small piece of the city's history and the character of this north gateway into Delray Beach. At this time, I would like to publicly thank the city manager, the city attorney, and their staff for recognizing and addressing the issue. While we believe that our particular issue is resolved, I wanted to ensure that you folks here at the Historic Preservation Board are aware of this situation, and we all continue to be diligent about preserving the neighborhood's historic integrity and character. If any issues remain unresolved, we sincerely hope that as this HPB here, you will support our efforts to maintain the historic nature of the property and the historic corridor on North Swinton. And I want to thank you for your service to our community.
Well, I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention. Can we just discuss this a little bit right now, or do we want to leave it until the end of the meeting?
It's up to the board. You're welcome to if it's something you want to address.
Well, I know I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask. I don't know about anybody else. First of all, I'm very familiar with this, and I've suffered some slings and arrows in trying to prevent the massacre of some of those trees along there. It looks like there's no sidewalk now, and there's no sidewalk on either side of you.
There's a sidewalk across the street.
I understand that.
Yeah. Oh, but there is a sidewalk to the south and no sidewalk to the north on our side, on the west side. which
Okay,
I'm
but
looking
on
at.
that block, are there any sidewalks?
Yes. At 1604, my neighbor has a sidewalk, a 5-foot wide sidewalk.
I know the LDRs are such that we are supposed to put in sidewalks, but this is such a lovely area and a lovely walk. I would hate to see it
Well, I'm all
desecrated
for it.
by cement.
Well, there's going to be a
concrete.
5-foot sidewalk, and I'm all for it. Improving the pathway so that it looks good and it's passersby can use it. But the plan was to go straight through, originally to remove the tree and the pillars, but we've sort of, objected to that, and now we have a potential solution.
Were you told it was going to be 5 feet or 8 feet?
5 feet wide.
Aren't the LDRs 8 feet?
5.
They are? Okay. Any comments, Michelle?
Well, I'm just so glad to meet you. I know we emailed about a year ago, and while just a quick note to the board, the house is not currently under the board's purview as an actually designated historic property or contributing site in a historic district. we did speak with the previous owners right before you bought last year, and I think I offered in the email too to talk with you about the benefits of designation, and I've toured the house when it was for sale. It's gorgeous. We'd love to talk to you more about potential benefits should you ever improve the property further or add on. The tax benefits are pretty valuable. But our research brought us to the lot to the north, which originally was the site of F.J. Schrader's home. And I have some of that research if you're interested in it, because your house is included in that plat. And F.J. Schrader, for those who don't know, he was involved, while Sam Ogren is credited with being the city's first registered architect, F.J. Schrader was here right at the same time and designed First Presbyterian Church, the building in the back on Bronson, as well as some other things in the community. So his involvement that far north at that time, when most of the development that was right around the core here on Atlantic and Swinton, is pretty special. So thank you for coming tonight. I'm glad to hear that a resolution has been reached or come some type of solution. And final point is Swinton serves as the bus route for Palm Tran. So I think it's been part of, and I'm not the expert and I'm not public works or utilities, but my understanding is creating a connected pedestrian network of sidewalks through the area on both sides of the street would provide a safe route for pedestrians to access that bus. And kids are going to and from school, things like that. So just thank you, Mr. Simmons, for coming tonight.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I would have one other question. Again, in experience I've had, the engineers from FDOT are the ones who design the rework of the street and the sidewalks. And this was a big political issue 5 years ago when they tried to put in a sidewalk. So
Bike lanes.
both.
Yeah.
The bike lane was in the street, but it was a bike lane. So I'm just concerned that given the influence that FDOT has on city construction and public works, that our presenter here does get what he wants rather than what has been proposed.
I think I'm not 100% sure. Again, I'm not Public Works. That would be the director, Missy Barletto. She's very well versed on this project. They've had many meetings over the years with the community and had opportunity for the public to come out. To be fair, I don't think Mr. Simmons was an owner yet. But she would be the expert to consult on this. I don't know if it's FDOT. I think it's a county right-of-way. I don't know if it was the county's engineering team or the cities that designed. I don't know those details, but
it is county, but it was state engineers that designed it.
Mr. Simmons, I think, worked, congratulations, very effectively to make it through the chain of command and talk with the right people. So I think he's in communication with all the right folks, and if, like he said, something comes up, it can be addressed. And I'm always, while I don't technically, your property isn't covered by my team, we're obviously always here to help refer you to the right team to talk to. So,
Thank you.
Just on that note, by the way, you know that we're doing the infrastructure there, a few blocks north.
Yes.
Huge excavation, huge.
Well, it goes
pipe,
down in
enormous.
phases, and
So I'm afraid it's going to get here too. So I don't know what's going to.
yeah, it is. There's excavation that's going to begin happening, and this is why we had to act urgently with all new drainage systems, catch basins,
Huge.
lighting, signs, and whatnot.
Roundabout.
There's a roundabout at 22nd
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to.
And we hope it will be paved properly.
Or repaved. Yeah. You know, I do have something to say related to this. The house that north of this property, that was a wonderful property, right? Got demolished. I guess that's how life goes. I'd like to see if there's a possibility from now on that every time this happens, the developer will scan the building, not just take drawings and all that. We do that in the office all the time. We scan existing building inside and outside. At least it's a more of a better record of what was there. that property was amazing, you know, and I live very close by, and it pains me every time I go there.
As do I. Live close by too. We photographed what we could. We encouraged the property owner to try to relocate, make it available to somebody to move it. There wasn't interest in that from the developer's perspective. I think they did communicate with some people, but I don't think that it came together. But that is standard practice with historic properties, that if we get to a point where something's demolished, that we document the building. So, I'll bring that back to my director, and
It's a newer technology and it's becoming much more
see,
accessible.
we are at least notified typically of buildings that are going to be demolished, but we have no purview over them. But I agree. Photographing buildings before they're gone is great for our records and our history. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Hopefully.
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you for coming and for not just complaining about it, but going through the system to try to make your case, and in your case, being successful. I would suggest that you remain diligent and to keep us informed of the progress.
Yes, I certainly will. There was one journalist who wrote about what's going on in our federal government now with really smart people who are trying to do the right thing that make bad decisions. He said it was like curing acne with decapitation. and that was what I felt was going on here. I'm like, wow, you say that tree is scheduled for removal. That's like impossible. If you see that picture there, it's like, really? And then they have the 4 pillars of the mission statement on the website is preserve the trees, and the character of the neighborhood. So we're definitely hopeful that we'll be able to, and we will be diligent for sure, and report back.
Thank you.
Thank you for hearing
Delray.
and thank you for what you do.
Thank you.
Chair, can we make sure that we're talking into the mics because I'm not hearing over
Okay.
there?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And speak up.
Yeah, I have to speak up, I know.
Okay, you can pull your mic down a little bit.
I'm not sure it's on.
Yeah.
It seems like it's on, the light is on.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Any other comments from the audience? No? Okay. Let's move on then. Any presentations?
No.
All right. I guess that means we go to quasi-judicial. Hold on a sec. This hearing shall be conducted in accordance with the City of Delray Beach quasi-judicial rules. The applicant and the city shall be permitted to present their cases. The public shall be allowed to speak for 3 minutes each, or a maximum of 6 minutes if the person represents an organization or a group of people who are present but agree not to speak. The board members may be allowed to cross-examine a witness. The city or the applicant will be allowed to offer rebuttal testimony. The decision to approve or deny an application or appeal may not legally be made upon personal views as to whether a project is a good project or not, nor may a decision be based on the numbers of citizens who support or oppose a particular project. The law requires that all decisions must be made on the basis of whether the project meets the requirements of law, the comprehensive plan, and the land development regulations. So, do we need to talk about ex parte at this point?
If you just have staff enter the file into the record, and then
Okay,
it's parte
okay.
communications.
So Michelle Hoyland, Principal Planner for the record, and I'd like to enter file number 2025-026 into the record for 300 Southeast 7th Avenue. The applicant is here, and Mr. Kubin will present first if you want to do ex parte now.
Okay. Starting on my right.
I've driven past the property. Have had no communications.
No.
None.
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 Okay. We're bringing up your presentation. If you need help, let me know. But you have a clicker, I think, and the keyboard to advance your drawings.
Okay, well, as Ms. Hewitt knows, I'm not very good with technology, but
Oh,
we'll
okay.
muddle through, I'm sure, so.
Okay.
Good evening, my name is Bob Cuban, my wife's name is Lisa. We live in 300 Southeast 7th Avenue, it's our primary residence. We've had the home for 22 years. I've been working on refurbishing the home to its original masonry vernacular is the type of building it is, from which I understand is basically it's just common concrete. But we've been there for 10 years working on it, and we decided a few years ago to expand it and worked with Michelle Hoyland. The house was originally owned by Viola Blank Harrison, and there's the Blank Nichols subdivision, which is in the Marina District, which is where the house is located. So the history that I know about the house, if you're not familiar with it, is that George Blank, the original owner of that area, the property in that area, they had a nursery, decorative tree nursery, decorative plant nursery there, and they actually, George, I think, actually built the original yellow house, the old the front porch
The corner
place
porch.
there, yeah, and that was his original house, yeah. And his son, I believe, was John, and he had 3 daughters. And when they were selling off the property, apparently, the son of George, built his 3 daughters 3 homes, and we occupy Viola Blank Harrison's home, and so we are the second owners of the home, actually, the second family to live in the house. So that is the background history of it. There are many. I really enjoyed hearing the presentation before, and the idea of keeping the trees and the property original and keeping as much of the foliage up, and we've really strived to do that. So the people in our neighborhood call our house the bromeliad house because there's hundreds of bromeliads that have been propagating there. 70-foot palm trees. I think we have 11 palm trees, sables, and coconut palms. Royal Poinciana. Somebody referred to as a legacy bougainvillea. So this bougainvillea has been there on a trellis for, I have no idea how long. I call it the bleeding tree, but anyway, we can go through. We did add an addition to the house, the original house. The house is on a double lot, it's a 100 by 140 foot lot. The addition is on the back of the house. So some of the things in working with Michelle Hoyland and Michelle Hewitt and Caterina Palawada was the goal of keeping the house as congruent with what was originally there as possible, and allow us to put the structure up. And it was a joy working with Michelle and her team going through it. I learned quite a bit. This is my first historic building, so I had a little bit to learn, and the ladies here were amazing in helping. So moving on, some of the things that our goal with developing the property was, again, to keep it all congruent with the original as far as roof lines. So you'll see that the original roof line actually blends directly into the addition roof line, which is above the garage doors. So it looks like, by perspective look from the street, it looks like it was originally there. The addition is a 2.5 car garage addition underneath with a 2-bedroom, or 1.5 bedroom actually, apartment upstairs with a small slate kitchenette and a balcony off the back, and 1.5 baths. So through the design and through working through it all, it came out wonderfully. We're very happy with how it came out. Is there anything else I can add to that?
Well, the request is ad valorem tax exemption.
That's what we're here to do. We got through the process in the CO and all that kind of stuff, and our goal here now is to get the ad valorem tax exemption, which was an incentive, and Michelle mentioned that earlier, for us to do the construction and invest our hard-earned money into the process, as well as maintaining the historic integrity of the building. And again, we're very pleased with how that worked out. You can see that there is an entrance from the back that goes up the stairs around the back of the property, so that there is not a staircase or any kind of entryway that is in the front facade of the house or the side facade of the house. It is a corner lot, so it borders on 7th Avenue and 3rd Street, so it can be seen from 2 sides. So it's very important that we keep everything looking right from not only the front side of the house, but also the north side of the house. One of the other goals in the development and the design of the property was that the second story could not be seen from the street, 7th Avenue. So as you pass in front of our house, from the street side, 6 feet up, your eye line cannot see the property in the back. So it still maintains the original integrity of the front facade of the house, which was something that we and with Michelle's help said this is something that's important to maintain. The windows are all congruent with how the other parts of the house are. We have a deck on the back above the old carport, which is where the addition connected to. That carport has been turned into a breezeway between the two spaces, and you can see that we've kept the yard as much as we possibly can original to what was there. The interior of the house was all done by myself. Our construction company did what they call a vanilla shell, and I went in and finished off and did all the trim work inside the house, all the painting, doors, all that kind of stuff, casings. And we call the house, we've nicknamed it the Casa Vela, which is sail house. So my wife and I sail catamarans off the beach here on the north end, which is a fantastic thing. So we try to keep that theme into the house, into the addition. Used a lot of butcher block wood, a lot of natural materials, kept everything as clean and wholesome and not over the top as possible. So it's a nice little comfortable living space up there. Is there anything else I can add, Michelle? You think I got it? I got it all? Again, this is my first time, so I'm trying to hit it.
That was excellent.
Okay, very good. Can I take any questions from anybody?
At the end.
At the end?
Yes.
Okay, very good, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kubin. Okay, so the item before us here, again, is an ad valorem tax exemption for 300 Southeast 7th Avenue. This is on the west side of 7th Avenue, on the south side of 3rd Street, the southwest corner of the Marina District, very south edge of the Marina Historic District. The home, like the owner said, is on multiple lots. It was built in the 1950s, 1957, and the Marina Historic District has a provenance known for the association with the Blank family nurseries. The Blank family had palm trees and ornamentals that they grew in their nursery along the intercoastal here, all through the neighborhood, which is why today we have such a lovely tree canopy that remains in the neighborhood thanks to the Blank family. So the applicant came through for a COA in 2020. The board reviewed the initial COA and continued that COA with some concerns, but the addition in the rear is about 2,100, almost 2,200 square feet. Garage on the first floor, and what technically we refer to in-house as a guest unit or a guest cottage on the second floor of that garage, connected to the rear of the building. They also had a waiver for secondary and subordinate associated with that COA approval. Then February in 2021, they came back with some revisions to their plan, addressed board comments, and the board approved the project. The state of Florida, in the Florida statutes, affords tax exemption to historic properties. We've had a number of these through our board, but for our new board members, this is an incentive that we outline for our property owners when they're coming through, and particularly it's applicable for additions. So if someone's coming through for maintenance updates, roof repair, roof replacement, window replacement, painting, electrical change out, plumbing, none of those things technically qualify. You have to be adding square footage to your building. Essentially what happens when you add square footage with the county tax collector is your taxes go up. So they reassess based on your building permit valuation and the value of your project. So the tax exemption allows the owner an opportunity to come before the board, ask for the application, which he's doing now, after he receives a certificate of occupancy. In this case, he got it in May. And they can then take this on and not pay an increase in taxes for this property for 10 years. So let's just say their taxes were $5,000 a year, and as a result of their addition, they went up to $8,000 a year. They're not paying that $3,000 a year after the approval occurs for 10 years. The process is to come through the board. HPB makes a recommendation to the city commission. That will be the action you take tonight. Once that's complete, the request moves on to Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners. The applicant is squeaking right in through the deadline, which is March, the first week of March. So we're hopeful that it can get up to the county and qualify for the next upcoming tax year. But these items that are outlined in the Florida statutes were adopted in our LDRs, and we have them outlined. They're kind of lengthy in the staff report, but the project complies with the requirements from an architectural standpoint in that they executed the plan as it was approved. The board still has to take action at this point and make a decision as to whether or not the qualifying improvements make sense and that the tax exemption is appropriate, along with your recommendation that occurs after you deliberate. So a few pictures. I like to kind of give the info, but if we now can take a look at some of the fun pictures of the property. This is the front. You can see very typical of the 50s. You had these corner windows set up with the center entrance on the front of the house, an irregular floor plan, so it's not symmetrical. There were some decorative coins that you can see in the very far left of the screen, and the applicant proposed removing those from the building. So he was really focused on going through and trying to bring the building back to a more original appearance. One of the things I think is really important in the view is this little piece of the building in the rear here, which actually faces the side street. You can see it kind of had a tile facade on it. Their proposal removed that, which is really nice. You can see those two windows up here. Right there. That is the point of what we're looking at here in this picture. So it's really a great transformation to the building. The addition here was connected. There was a code requirement that there be interior connection that occur in order for the building to qualify with a second story, because right now a detached structure cannot be taller than your principal structure. So this is why the building was attached, and it was a 2-story on the rear. So that massing is really pushed to the back of the property. This is another look at it. So if you're standing in the opposite corner or the southwest corner of the property looking northeast, this is the back and still the rear of the building. And this is overlooking their interior courtyard. Here we have the plans. If you, for some reason, wanted more detail and wanted to look at them, we include the plans. These have to be forwarded up to Palm Beach County as well with the overall application. But here, backing up, you can see the red is where the addition came through, and pieces of it here wrapping around with a covered walkway area so that you can come from the garage to the inside of the house. Black line drawings always show things looking more sharp than they are, but the owner is right. When you're standing at the curb, the perspective is so much different. You really don't see that building in the back. These are the original building permit plans, and we were fortunate to have on record. So yeah, I mean, it's really great to see the investment in the city and in the community with this renovation that the applicant has completed. And the request is now before you for your review and decision. Thank you.
All right. Any comments from the public? That looks like a no.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any rebuttal by the applicant to staff on their presentation?
No, everything with the staff has been spectacular.
Oh.
Okay.
Wonderful.
We should have him come back more often.
Yeah, I could use hearing that more often.
Any rebuttal of the applicant?
No.
Okay. So let's turn to the board. Carol, do you have any comments?
No, I don't.
I saw Vlad shake his head. He doesn't.
No, it's great.
I just want to say I went over to the property today and can confirm that you don't see the second story, you know, that it is not visible. And I do have a question for you. I mean, assuming we voted for this and then it gets referred to the Board of County Commissioners, on what basis could they deny this? I mean, what, you know, what would be the basis for any kind of denial of the application?
So if you look through your staff report, there are the specific requirements on what the deliberation
And I
is.
have read
And
it, yeah.
The county utilizes very much the same, almost verbatim, the same information when they come through their decision making. So it's imperative that a project's executed to the plan as it was approved. We did look at the property, it has been CO'd and it did get executed correctly. More high level kind of answer to that question would be if somebody didn't execute the plan as it was approved by the board.
But as when I read all the documents, it appeared that they did everything. I just didn't know if they have some leeway or whatever to.
Not usually. The only time I've seen something kind of in the realm of what you're talking about is tax exemptions can be revoked if an addition's removed. So if that back addition, say he sells in 5 years and a new owner comes in, you'll remember this happened with the Paul Rudolph Sewell C. Biggs house. The owner came in, removed a later addition to reimagine the site and come up with a new addition. It was still under tax exemption at the time, so they had to go through a revocation and payback process with the county and the city because the tax exemption is not just county taxes, it's city as well. So I've seen that with revocation. In some instances where a building was renovated and it's no longer a contributor because the changes were inappropriate, that can happen. We don't see it often. In fact, the Sewell C. Biggs example that I shared with the county, I think was one of their first times in recent history that they had seen something like that. So.
Okay, thank you. I
Sure.
appreciate it.
When you say revocation, that means clawing back the money?
Yep. The applicant has to pay it
from day
back.
one?
Yep. And that is in the covenant. So when this moves on to city commission, there's documentation that we include that ties the owner into that covenant that says they commit to maintaining the building as it was approved for 10 years. They can come through and renovate and do something else, and then they maybe start a new tax exemption and revise it. But they have to maintain that structure for a 10-year period of time in its form.
Even if they sell it?
Yeah, and great point, thank you. When a property is sold, the tax exemption transfers with the property to new owners.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah.
Robert, great project. We're very pleased to see that you had a great experience with staff, and I'm the beneficiary of a exemption as well. I live in historic Delta Park, so I'm familiar with the process, and I wish more people would take advantage of it. But I really support this. Looks great.
Chris?
Yeah, I support it as well.
Okay. I do as well. I hope that he can also do the blank house, which is at some risk right now. Yeah. Okay. Call the roll.
Make a motion?
I'll make a motion
Oh.
to recommend approval to the City Commission of the Historic Property Ad Valorem Tax Exemption Application 2025-107 for improvements to the property at 300 South East 7th Avenue Marina Historic District by finding that the request and approval thereof is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
I second.
Now can we call the roll?
Carol Perez?
Yes.
John Miller's absent. Peter Dwyer?
Yes.
Chris Capezas?
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu?
Yes.
Ezra Krieg?
Yes.
Jim Chard?
Yes. Very nice work. All right, moving along. To B, Certificate of Appropriateness and Amendment to the Master Sign Program.
I remember this one.
Yeah. 3 times the charm.
Michelle Hewitt, planner, and I'm reading into the record file number 2025-026 for 10 Southeast First Avenue, Certificate of Appropriateness and Amendment to the Master Sign Program.
Any ex parte?
No.
None.
None?
I went to see the
Okay.
building.
Carol?
No.
No.
Ezra? Okay. Shall we have the,
Hi.
good to see
Again.
you again.
Yeah, nice to see you guys. All right, my name is Jennifer Piedrahita on behalf of 10 Southeast First Avenue, Delray Orthodontics. We did a revision since the last time that I was here. We made some changes. Am I pressing the correct button? Yes, okay. So I told you guys about Dr. Janet. Here's the timeline. I'm just gonna skip to the revision so I can save you guys some time. This is what it looks like right now. We spoke to, I would like to call you guys the Michelles because, you know, same name. So we revised it and that is what it looks like right now. We're complying with all the changes required, which is taking it down. Once the electrical and the black backing that you see right there is removed, we can bring it down a little bit more so it's aligned with the area. So if we take the black backing there, we can drop it down a little bit more and mount the letters individually instead of having that whole black piece in the back. So that's the night view. Okay, so this is what the revision will look like. Additionally, removing the back piece will reduce the square footage of the sign. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That is what it's gonna look like now. Kind of matches the building, the colors, a little bit less in your face without the black. So yeah, hopefully this time we can get this approved.
All right. To staff.
Okay, so here we have the subject property outlined in red. Just a quick brief history or just general statement about the property. Again, it's within the Old School Square Historic Arts District, and within the Old School Square Historic District. It's a contributing building that was constructed in 1924 as a two-story masonry vernacular style commercial building. And the building is currently contains a mix of retail, office, and restaurant uses. So previously at the December 4th HPB meeting, the request for an after the fact sign installation came before the board and was continued with concerns regarding the land development regulations and the existing master sign program. And staff was also asked to provide some information about the signage on the building. So briefly, in February of 2019, a building permit was submitted for Haagen-Dazs signage. The submittal was administratively approved as the proposal was deemed consistent with the master sign program for the building, which you can see here. On November 25th, 2019, two wall signs for Andre Dupree were administratively approved via the building permit process, also deemed consistent with the master sign program. And these were non-illuminated red and black wall signs. And they were located on the north and east sides of the building. It is noted that processing the review of signage that is compliant with an approved master sign program is typically reviewed in association with the building permit. This ensures streamlining and efficiency. So here is the building prior to any signage installation along Southeast First Avenue. This is the rendering of the signage that is currently installed on the structure. And then this is it in reality in the field. Where you can see, when we've gone over this, but the size and the appearance of the signage. So here on the screen, the current proposal includes modifications to the design of the sign. It includes an overall square footage reduction of 13.5 square feet, where the currently installed signage is at 49.22 square feet and the proposed is 35.6 square feet. It also includes the removal of the black backplate and removal of the electrical component for the internally lit letters. The same acrylic and vinyl material will continue to be utilized. However, the color palette has been modified to only include two shades of blue that you can see on the screen here. Here is the current configuration, dimensions, and lighting element that is currently installed on the structure. And here is the proposed. You can see the differences with the black backplate removed and those letters just placed directly onto the building, along with the removal of any electrical components. This is the current door signage that exists on the structure, and then the walls, the window signs, which will have to comply with the regulations, which, based on calculations, they do. And then another item that the board wanted to see were the regulations as they exist in the code today, along with what the installed signage is currently meeting and what the new proposed that's before you today is at. So you can see that square footage reduction and the height from the ground. Here we have a staff report excerpt regarding the Delaware Beach Historic Preservation Design Guidelines. The applicant, they've modified their request. Again, they've removed the eliminated the electrical component, and that eliminates the concern with the internally lit letters. And then to remedy the modern appearance of the signage, they have removed or proposed to remove the black backplate. And here, another staff report excerpt under the Secretary of the Interior Standards section. Again, the modern appearance has been significantly reduced with these proposed modifications. The square footage has been reduced with that, again, black backplate being removed. Standard 5, consideration should be given to incorporate signage that emulates the materials and appropriate lighting styles on the structure. The revised proposal will continue to utilize the acrylic and vinyl materials. However, the electrical component that is currently installed is proposed to be removed. This will allow for other indirect lighting options to be applied at a later date, which can be administratively reviewed at the staff level. Here we have the Secretary of the Interior Standards on the screen here with the highlighted elements. The items highlighted or what were utilized to analyze the request. And the same here for visual compatibility standards. And here the Delaware Beach Historic Preservation Design Guidelines have specific, has a specific section for signage in historic districts and for individually designated structures. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any comments from the staff? I'm sorry, from the attendees this evening. Seeing none, any rebuttal of the staff presentation? No. Any queries or rebuttal to the applicant?
None from staff.
Sorry, none from staff. Okay. Vlad, I think you had the most comments on this. Do you want to? You're good?
Yeah, I just a couple of quick questions. Is this means that the master sign program will allow for future electrical signs or not? Was that
Will allow for future electrical signs?
yes, I mean is that the no from now on, or is the it's up to the next sign application?
So it would be if someone else came forward with another sign that wasn't within the parameters of the master sign program, including this new signage that potentially could get approved today, they would have to come back before the board, and that would need to get reviewed and approved by the board. Because currently, right now, there's no.
It's not limited.
Right. They would need to come back before the board.
However, we did indicate that if the owner, could you go to the picture with the new sign on the building? Mm-hmm. That if the business owner, because they're taking off the electrical component from inside of the sign, so the ability to internally illuminate goes away. The design guidelines do state that a sign can be indirectly lit. So right below the sign is currently an outlet. And I talked with the orthodontics owner as well as the building owner and have said that if they want to come through with some type of gooseneck light that shines up onto it, that I think we can approve that administratively. If it went beyond anything that was pretty simple, we would refer it back to the board. So I think they have some flexibility if they want to light the sign, but it's indirect.
It was just the fact that this is called a master signage plan.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if it's modified for
The
the rest
master
of the
sign-
building and for the future.
So you're modifying the master sign program specifically to allow this sign in this location to exceed the sign requirements for size. But it fits in with the type of signage that was approved on the other businesses around the rest of the building. So if they had come in with this just like this and they were 30 square feet or less, we could have administratively approved this.
I understand.
But because it's over the 30 square feet and because it's been here twice already, it's before the board.
Ezra?
I do one more question.
Sure.
Again, because it's a master sign program, I went there and to me, this solution is not the best possible. It's kind of hard to see this from the side. As much as big it is, were they allowed to put also a blade sign option if they choose?
So they could come through and propose a blade sign. The struggle with this building, and I just don't know it off the top of my head, is if the blade sign encroaches into the right of way, they have to get an agreement and a hold harmless agreement. So
it's not enough.
I feel like the building is either right on the property line or very close to. So if that was something they were interested in doing, they could certainly come in. We could look at it with them. It's possible that it would fall within the boundary of the property, but I think if my memory serves right, that it goes right up to the sidewalk and then it's right of way.
I'm sure.
And then you've got the agreements that have to go in place. There's minimum requirements about how high off the ground they go and how far out they project. I think these would all be city right-of-ways, so that would be a lot easier to do. If they were county or FDOT, they're much harder to get those approved.
I just wasn't aware of that
Yeah,
option.
blade signs are pretty cool for historic properties.
Yeah, exactly. And much more visible and double-sided.
Yeah,
So yeah, would have been
good
maybe
point.
a good solution. All right. No, I like it as it is. I think it's much less of a. And hopefully they can install it, straight, not crooked.
I'll make sure of that. Don't worry.
Right.
Ezra?
No, I just want to thank the applicant for their patience.
Yeah.
And I think that you all have tried to work with everybody involved to try to resolve this in an amicable way. So thank you for doing that.
Just moving forward, one comment I have is I understand the public is watching, is having a hard time hearing us. So we gotta make sure we lean into our mics.
I promise I'll do it in the
Thank you.
future.
No, that's me.
I won't ask you to repeat your comments.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carol?
I just want to say thank you for listening to all of our comments, and I think the sign as it stands now is a much better sign. Thank you.
I agree.
Short and sweet?
And I'll just echo Carol's comments. Thank you for your patience. Looks good.
Okay. I would add your good humor as well. Somebody want to make a motion? Peter, do you want to make a
My
motion?
screen is dark.
Oh.
I'm waiting for the battery to recharge. And I don't have it committed to memory, so.
All right. Well, you
I
could
can
read it up there.
approve the certificate of appropriateness and amendment to the master sign program 2025-026 for the property located at 10 Southeast First Avenue, Old School Square Historic District, by finding that the request and approval thereof is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets the criteria set forth in the land development regulations.
Second.
Call the roll.
Carol Perez,
Yes.
John Miller's absent, Peter Dwyer,
Yes.
Chris Cabezas,
Yes.
Vlad Dumitrescu,
Yes.
Ezra Creek,
Yes.
Jim Chard.
Yes.
Thanks so much,
Thank you.
Jennifer. Next is a building permit, and let us know if we can help you with anything else. Thanks.
Thank you.
No legislative items, so we're on to reports and comments. Our next board meeting is March 5th, Wednesday, March 5th. I do have some updates from the December meeting that the board asked 2 questions. I'll start with the landscape and the natural environment memorandum that was sent on to the city manager's office on December 5th, 2024. In the memorandum, there was, the board had discussed a second time about potentially adding historic plant list information to the website. So our director added that as a numbered item, so that it's really direction that's coming from the city manager via the city commission via the city manager. But I do want to note, if you go on to the city website, under our landscape code, there are several, maybe a dozen guides and plant list information there. So we will start pointing single family residential property owners to that list if they need help. If it comes back from the commission to add historic plant lists to the website, we will. But right now I spoke with Kelly before we met just to make sure I understood the process, and we do need to receive the formal direction through the hierarchy. So that is in the manager's hands. I did not get a chance to confirm with him if it was forwarded on to the commission yet. So do you have something you want to add?
He called me back. He said that he received it on December 5th at 10 o'clock and sent it off to the commission on December 10th at 11 o'clock. So they do have it in their hands. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody to see if they remember it, but it did get back to where it got two and a half years ago.
Oh, okay. Good. Thank you for confirming that.
He also added that since there is a historic preservation workshop on, I believe, the 11th, having to do with the cemetery and with Atlantic Avenue, that during public comments, I should stand up and talk about it to the commission.
Okay. I'm not going to say much more. I think potentially we could talk about that process offline. It's a pretty packed meeting. It is smack in the middle of the tennis tournament too, so I don't remember there being public comment at workshops. That's what I'm a little...
That has changed.
Okay.
There are now public workshops.
Public comment, yeah.
Public comments.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And what I'd like to do is, with the permission of the board, speak as not a private citizen, but as chair of the board, and having their support on this proposal. Kelly?
I guess trying to think about that, sorry. I think that typically if you're going before the commission, it needs to be coming from you. I think that you can state that the commission had written a memo. I mean, the HPB board had written a memo recommending something, though. That's something that's factual. It's not like you're saying it. You don't have to say it. As the chair, I know they support this. You know, they wrote you guys have all written a memo with a motion that approved it. So, I mean, you can state something that's factual and still be there on your own.
That works for me. How about board members?
That's fine.
Okay.
But I just wouldn't say like anything, I mean, outside of that memo, you don't want to be saying, you know, they all support this and I'm the chair, you know, kind of thing. But as long as you're just saying the Historic Preservation Board drafted a memo and it was sent to you guys on December 5th. And I'm here to talk about it, you know, talk about supporting that or something. You know.
The meeting is at 3 o'clock, and if people can free themselves up at that time, I think it would be good to have a good representation from the board.
Is that the correct time still?
For the
Do
workshop?
you know that?
It was just published.
I specifically asked the city manager if it were 4, and he said no, it's at 3.
We'll double check before we leave. She's pulling it up.
Okay, perfect.
I think it is.
Okay, I had heard 4:30, so that's okay.
I have update 2. I
Yeah.
have 2 more things, but I'm going to start with update 2. And Michelle's like so close to answering what time the workshop is on February 11th. 3:00 on here.
Okay, great.
Second item that was asked, and I can give the update again when Mr. Miller's here, or I can remind him to look at the video because he was the inquirer about the property at the corner of 2nd and 4th. Sorry, the northeast corner. So it took me a bit of recall and going back and looking at my records because it's been quite a while that this thing has been circling the wagon. But ultimately, the property owners did submit a COA following the changes that they made. So we reached out to them. I don't remember if it was directly through my team or through code. You know, a lot of times with code enforcement, we do ask code to go out, make contact with owners, ask them to get in touch with us, because sometimes owners don't realize that they're needing an approval, rather than just throwing a citation at someone. So I don't remember who it was, but contact was made. They came in through the process, submitted a COA. The COA went stagnant. And so we, started reaching out, asking what's going on with the COA. And they advised that they hired an attorney to represent them. And we thought, oh, great, this will move quickly through the process. And then we again stalled. So they do have building permits in process. One of the building permits is still not CO'd. So they don't have a CO for the interior exterior alteration that the windows are under that permit. So I've communicated with the building official to see what can we do to kind of get the ball rolling again. I don't know if the attorney is actually engaged. I've not heard anything from them in several months. It's kind of hard with a project to, we're not really in a position when a COA is submitted to then send out code enforcement on somebody. It just doesn't seem like we're trying to help them get into compliance. But we could touch base back with them to see what is it that they need, how can we help them through the process. But that was the intent, was for them to come through, process back to the board. There were some other changes beyond windows that were needing the board's review, and we've made that clear to the property owner. So it's a tough position for staff to be in, to kind of chase an applicant around and keep it helpful and amicable and not seem like we're kind of singling somebody out. So it's not been a simple solution, and it's not solved yet, but we are working on it. I met with my leadership team today and let them know about the board's concerns and looking for some solutions to kickstart it again. So we have some ideas how to get it going. Any questions on that?
This has been a pattern with this particular property, and I think many of us watch that property very closely. I know John does. I know I do. And it is certainly at a key part of our city. And if the owner is not complying with city directive, which you may or may not be saying, I think that's a problem, and it's a problem much wider than just the board, because certainly code enforcement is part of that, and I would imagine the city manager's office would have some say in that matter too.
Okay. I'm not sure if you were asking me a question in there. I'm sorry.
There was not a question in there.
Okay.
I don't know. I wasn't on the board when that project came through, but so they have permits in.
So what are you asking? Like what happened?
No, I'm just wondering, you know, so they have a permit, but did their permit expire?
No, so
Are they still able to keep going?
if I could back up 1 second just to give you the brief backstory. They came before the board with the COA to change out their windows. The board ultimately denied the request because the design wasn't honoring the existing window pattern and the window surrounds. So the applicant went back and we talked with them a bit, and they said, what can we do? And we said, you could come in with new windows, keeping the window surrounds. So, and that can be done administratively. You don't need the board approval for a window change out as long as they're the same frame, appearance, and profile. You can go from wood to aluminum by permit. So that's what they did. In that process, they took out the wood surrounds, which was expressed by the board not to do. So they have an active permit in hand, and they have been actively working on the site for interior and exterior alterations, but the alterations that they have made exceed what was on the permit. Yeah, like restuccoing the building and some other things. So
which is not insignificant.
No, and we've talked with them about it. So, you know, we do have a plan going forward. I have said this to some of you before. You don't know what other people have going on in their lives. I mentioned this to you before. I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's something that's prohibiting them from having, you know, an opportunity to come in and get into compliance. We want to work with them. We want them to feel supported by the historic team, because long after the project's done, I always say to our applicants, something happens, we're here for you if you need us as a resource. So we'd really like to get the project, help them get through the process and get it resolved. I don't want to say too much more, to be fair, because they aren't here to speak for themselves.
It certainly looks better than it was looking. I mean, when I'm, you know, I don't know the whole history of this building, but I know when I look at it, I am like, thank you, someone, you know, started fixing up this building.
I mean,
The-
it's so
the one
important
thing-
if they
'Cause it
did
was
the
in dis-
inside, you know.
Disarray.
Yeah.
The one thing I think about, though, is if they're doing things without the proper permits, there is a safety aspect that the inspectors come in and have to just make sure it's safe for the tenants that are there, that there's no, you know, they inspect it. That's the whole purpose. So that's my concern, is that they're doing things that is not getting reviewed by an inspector.
Duly noted. Anything else on this topic?
And my concern, I think, rests with, we believe they're coming in with some fairly significant changes, particularly on the south side.
Sorry, I would just caution, if we're going to talk about the specific changes, you might not want to say too much, because this will end up coming
Sure.
before you if the COA ends up
But
getting through the full process
Let's hope
when the COA gets put through.
I'm just saying, if there is this continued pattern when they're coming before us again, we should recognize that.
Yeah, I think you just need to remember that every application comes to you when, even if they've violated, even if they've been violated by code or they've done it without permission, you know, the application comes to you as if as if they're about to do it right then.
So
you
we
know,
shouldn't be
would you,
prejudiced.
right? Would
Shouldn't
you
be
guys
prejudiced,
approve this
right.
if it was before you? And
That's-
so while you're sitting up here, you have to make that determination based on that fact, and then code enforcement handles the other stuff. If it gets to code enforcement, they are the ones that make the decision of whether, you know, they've done something outside of their permitted site plan or application or whatever it may be.
Okay. Right, they would be red tagged if they were in violation. That's my experience.
They'll be handled in the code enforcement side if it gets to the violations, and that's outside of this board's purview.
Michelle, was there anything else you had?
I do. So tomorrow night at the Delray Beach Historical Society is the Segregated Shorelines event, 6 p.m. It's being held at the Old School Square Gymnasium, also known as the Historic Field House. Historical Society archivist, I'm just going to read this from the email. Kaylee Howell, you join her for a captivating evening exploring a topic and time that forever altered history, highlighted in their latest exhibition, Land of Sunshine and Dreams. The history of the 50s and 60s is ongoing at the Historical Society, so you can stop in and see that. But tomorrow night, they'll be covering post-war prosperity and optimism, influences on civil rights, Delray's segregated neighborhoods, and the Sundown Law. Brown versus Board of Education, the NAACP, demonstrations on Delray's beachfront in 1956, tensions between city leaders and the community, televised mediation between the Civic League and the City Commission, the path to integration in public spaces, and civil rights organizations and committees in Delray Beach. If you are a Delray Beach Historical Society member or student, the event is free. I did speak with Winnie today, and she said city staff can come along. I don't know if that extended to board members. I think it probably would, for no charge. But you do have to make a reservation so they know how many seats to have out. They are expecting a really good turnout for this. Again, it's in the field house. I would highly recommend or encourage you all to attend this event, particularly because we're, working on the back end on the Frog Alley resource survey, and we will be approaching topics like this at some point here, and how Delray Beach progressed through history. I think it'd be a really great framework, and we appreciate our partners at the Historical Society for putting this lecture together. So if you can, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Thank you. That's all I have for the board.
Board comments? None from Peter?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good.
None from me. Shall we adjourn?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good meeting.